Good morning, myself Bhaskar, Assistant Professor of Chemistry working at SRR Government Arts and Science College, Karimnagar. In this video, I am going to give a presentation on valency bond theory for coordination compounds. This theory was developed by Pauling, scientist Pauling. Right? Before going into this topic, here is a question for you. That is, what do you know about the today's topic? Why to study valency bond theory? What are the applications of valency bond theory? What are the learning outcomes of the valency bond theory? So for this, you can see here in the slide. So these are the benefits if you go through the video presentation of valency bond theory for coordination compounds. After the completion of video, you will get the benefits of these outcomes. That is, concept of valency bond theory. What are the important points in valency bond theory? Second one is, we can explain the geometry of a given complex after the completion of this video. At the same time, we can also predict the inner orbital complex and outer orbital complex, right? After the completion of this video, one can clearly explain whether the given complex is inner orbital complex or outer orbital complex. And at the end of video, you will get the what are the limitations of valency bond theory. And the final one is know more about the valency bond theory, right? So you already know, I think he is Werner. He is also known as father of chemistry. He is the first one who proposed the theory to explain the characteristics of coordination compounds. And this slide is also familiar for you. So these are the various theories proposed to explain the structure, stability, reactivity, properties of coordination compounds. And today in this video we are going to discuss about the valency bond theory. Already in the last video we have covered the Sedgwick theory as well as Werner theory. You know, from these two theories we explain the structure as well as isomerism, at the same time stability. Based on Werner theory, we can able to explain the structure of a complex and isomerism. At the same time, based on Sedgwick theory, using effective atomic number, that is EAN rule, we can explain the stability of the complexes. Of course, there are limitations for these two theories, and right now in this video we are going to concentrate on the valency bond theory. This valency bond theory is proposed by Pauling. This scientist called Pauling has treated the valency bond of bonding in complexes. Right? So you can see here in this slide, he is the scientist, that is Linus Carl Pauling. He is the one who proposed the valency bond theory. He has applied the valency bond concept in explaining the bonding in coordination compounds. So for that he was awarded the Nobel Prize in 1954. Right? So you can see here some other scientists in the screen, that is Louis, Hitler, London. So they proposed the valency bond theory as well as resonance hybridization. So using these concepts, VBT theory is proposed by Pauling to explain the bond formation between the metal ion ligand in a complex. So for that he was awarded Nobel Prize, that is Pauling. Right? Let us go through the important postulates of valency bond theory and accordingly try to apply this valency bond theory to explain the characteristics of complexes. Coming to the valency bond theory postulates. Actually, it is the simplest of all the three theories and explains satisfactorily the structure and magnetic properties of coordinate compounds. Coming to the silent features of the valency bond theory, the first very important point is the metal has empty orbitals not less than its coordination number, and ligand contains lone pair of electrons. The second point is metal will undergo hybridization by utilizing these empty orbitals, that is vacant s orbital or p orbital, d orbital. By utilizing the vacant orbitals equals to the coordination number, the metal will undergo hybridization. By utilizing the vacant orbitals equals to the coordination number, the metal will undergo hybridization. These empty hybrid orbitals finally will undergo overlap with the fully filled orbitals. You can see in the third point, you can see clearly in the image, metal on the metal side we are having empty hybrid orbital. On ligand there is a fully filled orbital, and these empty hybrid orbitals on metal will overlap with the fully filled orbitals on the ligand to form a chemical bond. So during this overlap, what happens? There will be a formation of strong bond. Greater the extent of overlap, the stronger will be the bond, and hence more stable will be the complex. So here the chemical bond formed due to the overlap of the empty orbital on the metal and fully filled orbital on ligand is of covalent nature. That means the nature of bond between the metal and ligand in a complex according to valency bond theory is covalent bond. Covalent bond. This is the third postulate. And the next important point is, based on the coordination number, the empty hybrid orbitals will undergo hybridization. Thereby we can decide the geometry of the complex. That means if we know the coordination number, then by involving the empty orbitals equals to the coordination number, the metal will undergo hybridization. Based on the hybridization, we can decide the geometry of the complex. Right? The next postulate is inner orbital complex and outer orbital complex. This term is applicable to octahedral complexes. Octahedral complex is nothing but the complex with coordination number 6. That means in this complex the metal has to undergo hybridization by utilizing 6 empty orbitals. That means 1 s orbital, 3 p orbitals, 2 d orbitals. Right? So either it will undergo d2 sp3 hybridization or it will undergo sp3 d2 hybridization. That means if at all in a octahedral complex, if inner d orbitals, that means n-1 d orbitals are involved in the hybridization, that is d2 sp3 hybridization, then such complex is called as inner orbital complex. In an octahedral complex, if outer orbitals are involved, outer nd orbitals are involved, then the hybridization is sp3d2. Such complex is called as outer orbital complex. Based on the type of d orbital involved in the hybridization in the octahedral complex, the octahedral complexes are of two types. If inner orbitals are involved, that is called as inner orbital complex, hybridization is d2 sp3. If outer d orbitals are involved, the hybridization is sp3d2. Such complex is called as outer orbital complex. The final statement is, under the influence of strong field ligands, the electrons are filled against the Ohm's rule. What is Ohm's rule? Ohm's rule is used to explain the filling of electrons in the orbitals. According to the Ohm's rule, the electrons are filled in the degenerate orbitals one by one. Then after pairing takes place. This is called Hund's rule. But under the influence of strong field ligands, here the electrons are filled against the Hund's rule. That means the pairing takes place from the beginning itself. That is against Hund's rule. Right? This is very important point. In presence of strong field ligands only, the electrons are filled up against the Hund's rule. Right? And the next postulate is regarding the magnetic moment. Magnetic moment. If a complex contains unpaired electrons, then it possesses magnetic property. Such compound is called as paramagnetic compound. If a complex does not contain any unpaired electrons, that means all are paired up, then such type of complex is called as a diamagnetic compound. And we can calculate the magnetic moment based on the number of unpaired electrons by using the formula. You can see that is mu is equals to under root n into n plus 2. The units for magnetic moment is Bohr magnetons. Bohr magnetons. Right. So this table is very important. So based on the coordination number and hybridization, we can decide the geometry of the metal complex. For example, here in this case Ml4, let us assume L is a monodentate ligand here, right? Then in such case Ml4 complex, the coordination number is 4. That means in this complex, in such type of complex, the metal has to undergo hybridization by utilizing 4 empty orbitals. If it undergoes hybridization by utilizing 1 s orbital, 3 p orbitals, empty orbitals, then the hybridization will be sp3. In such case, the structure of the complex is tetrahedral. For the same complex Ml4, that is coordination number 4, it may also undergo hybridization by utilizing empty d orbital, s orbital and 2 p orbitals. In such case, the hybridization is dsp2. The structure will be square planar. So for Ml4, there are two options for the complex to undergo hybridization. If sp3 hybridization, then the structure is tetrahedral. If dsp2, then the structure is square planar. And coming to Ml5, the coordination number is 5. For this also there are two options, that is dsp3 or sp3d2. Here the structure is trigonal bipyramidal. We are not concentrating on this complex, just we concentrate on two types of complexes in coordination chemistry, because much of the literature, much of the research has been done on the complexes with coordination number 4 and 6. So that's why usually we come across these examples in books. So that's why we concentrate on these two complexes, that is one complex with coordination number 4 and complex with coordination number 6. So in case of Ml6, the coordination number is 6. Here also there is a chance of two hybridizations, d2sp3 inner orbital complex, sp3d2 outer orbital complex. But for these two hybridizations, the complex structure is octahedral. Right? This is very, very important. From this table, we can explain the structure of a given complex. Right? Now let us try to explain the geometry of complexes by taking some examples. That is two examples. Complex with coordination number 6 and complex with coordination number 4. Just now we have gone through the table. The complex with, there we seen the complexes with coordination number 6 has two chances, either d2sp3 or sp3d2 hybridization, but in both cases the structure is octahedral. Whereas the complexes with coordination number 4, it may be tetrahedral if the hybridization is sp3, or the complex may be square planar geometry if it undergoes dsp2 structure. So for this, here there is a note for you. For this, one must have the knowledge of terms involved in chemistry. Again, I am repeating here that in order to understand all the topics in the coordination chemistry, one must have clear knowledge about the terms involved in chemistry, right? If you know all the terms involved in coordination chemistry only, then it will become easy for you to solve and understand all the problems in the coming coordination compound topics. Right, here is a mind map for you. Just you try to recollect the postulates which are important to apply the valency bond theory in predicting the structure of a given complex. Then we will get the 2 points. One is metal will undergo hybridization by utilizing empty orbitals equals to the coordination number. So thereby we will get the hybridization information, from which we will get the structure of the complex. And the last important point is the electrons are filled against the Ohm's rule in presence of strong field ligands, right? Now let us go through the complex with coordination number 6. Here is an example, that is hexafluorocobaltate 3 ion. Hexafluorocobaltate 3 ion. In this, the cobalt atomic number is 27, and you can see in the image the electronic configuration is 3d7 4s2 4p0 4d0. Here we do not consider the 3p orbitals because they are filled. Those are non-bonding orbitals. Here usually we omit the non-bonding orbitals on metal side, because metal will undergo overlap with the fully filled orbitals of ligand. That means we concentrate on the empty orbitals of the metal. So that's why here we have not considered the 3p orbitals, right? So here the electronic configuration is 3d7 4s2 4p0 4d0, and here fluoro is the monodentate ligand. That means each fluorine will form one bond. We have 6 bonds between the 6 fluoro ligands and the cobalt metal. Therefore the coordination number is 6. And if you look at the oxidation state calculation, that is the sum of the oxidation states of the all the atoms will be equals to the charge present on the ion. Here the cobalt oxidation state plus 6 fluorine oxidation states will be equals to -3. Here the fluorine is the negative ligand having -1 charge. Therefore by substituting -1 in place of oxidation state of fluorine, we will get the oxidation state of cobalt for this complex, that is +3. So that means this complex is formed by the cobalt +3 ion, not by the cobalt atom. So here we have taken the cobalt +3 electronic configuration by removing the 3 electrons from the cobalt atom, right? When we remove 3 electrons, finally what do we get here? 3d6 system, that is 3d6 4s0 4p0 4d0. Here the cobalt +3 has formed the complex. That's why we have removed the 3 electrons from the cobalt, right? So here if you look at the electronic configuration, we have filled the 6 electrons according to the Ohm's rule, because here the fluorine is a weak field ligand. Here the fluorine is a weak field ligand. Therefore the electrons are filled according to the Ohm's rule. That means we have to fill the electrons in the degenerate orbitals of 3d by individually, then after we will pair the electrons, right? Then if you look at this situation, you can clearly see that we are having empty s orbital, 4s orbital, and empty 3 orbitals in 4p level. And if you look at the 3d and 4d, we don't have empty orbitals at 3d level. We are having empty orbitals at 4d level. So therefore the metal will undergo hybridization by utilizing 1 s orbital, 1 3p orbitals and 2 d orbitals from 4d level. That means here the hybridization is sp3d2, because outer d orbitals are involved in the hybridization. Here the coordination number is 6, therefore the hybridization is sp3d2. Such complex is called as outer orbital complex. Yes or no? Right. So these empty orbitals will not directly overlap with the ligand, but before the overlapping, what happens here? These orbitals will undergo hybridization to give sp3d2 hybrid orbitals, new set of 6 equivalent hybridized orbitals which are oriented in a particular manner around the cobalt metal, that is octahedral orientation. You can see here, after the hybridization, the formed sp3d2 orbitals will overlap with the ligand orbitals to form 6 bonds, 6 covalent bonds. So you can see in the image here the structure of the complex is octahedral, right? From the electronic configuration of the complex, you can see here the metal is having 4 unpaired electrons. So thereby, by substituting n is equals to 4 in the equation, that is magnetic moment mu is equals to under root n into n plus 1 Bohr magnetons, finally we will get magnetic moment of this complex is 4.50 Bohr magnetons. So therefore the complex is paramagnetic in nature. Right. Let us go through the next example, that is hexaamine cobalt plus 3 ion. In this also same, the cobalt is in plus 3 oxidation state, coordination number is 6. So it is also 3d6 system. This is also 3d6 system like in the previous case. If you look at this example, that is in this the cobalt plus 3 electronic configuration is 3d6, 4s0, 4p0, 4d0. At this situation, we think that the complex formed should be the outer orbital complex like in the previous case, and it should be the paramagnetic compound as it is having 4 unpaired electrons. However, the experiment shows that the complex is a diamagnetic compound. It does not have any unpaired electrons. This is possible when the 3d electrons are rearranged against the Hund's rule. Right? So this is also in accordance with the fact that the ligand involved here is strong field ligand. Here the ammonia is a strong field ligand. Therefore, in presence of strong field ligand, the electron should be filled against the Hund's rule. Right? According to valence bond theory also, he has mentioned that point, that is in presence of strong field ligand, the electron should be filled against the Hund's rule. Right? If we fill the electrons against the Hund's rule, that means we have to pair up the electrons initially from the beginning in the degenerate orbitals. So thereby we will get the configuration like this, that is 3 degenerate orbitals on at 3d level will be paired up. So thereby here there is a 2 chances, that is 3d orbitals, inner 3d orbitals are empty, outer 4d orbitals are also empty. So for this complex, it has 2 options. Either it will undergo D2sp3 or it may undergo sp3d2. But in this situation, it will undergo D2sp3 hybridization because 3d orbitals are lower energy state. So thereby this complex will undergo D2sp3 hybridization. Such complexes are called as inner orbital complexes because the octahedral complexes which undergo hybridization by utilizing inner d orbitals are known as inner orbital complexes. The main difference, if you look at the previous example and the present example, both the complexes are octahedral, both are a 3D system. In both of the complexes, cobalt is in +3 oxidation state, but the main difference is in the previous case, you can see in the previous case the ligand is fluorine, which is a weak field ligand, we have filled the electrons according to the Hund's rule. Thereby, there are no empty d orbitals at 3d level. Therefore, it has underwent sp3d2 hybridization. But whereas in our present situation, because here as the ammonia ligand is a strong field ligand, the electrons are filled against the Hund's rule. Therefore, finally, we got two empty orbitals at 3d level. Thereby, it will undergo d2sp3 hybridization. So, here we can remember one important point, that is the inner orbital complex or outer orbital complex can be identified by filling the electrons only. In presence of strong field, it should be filled against the Hund's rule. In the presence of weak field, the electron should be filled according to the Hund's rule. Right? So this is a inner orbital complex. Here there are no unpaired electrons. So thereby its magnetic moment is 0. Right? If we substitute the number of unpaired electrons as 0, finally we will get magnetic moment mu is equals to 0 Bohr magnetons. That means here the complex is diamagnetic and the structure is obviously octahedral. Whether the hybridization is d2sp3 or sp3d2, in both the cases the complex will be octahedral geometry. Now let us discuss the structure of the complexes with coordination number 4. Here the example taken is tetrachloronickelate 2 ion. In this, the chloro ligand is a monodentate ligand. That means each chlorine will form one bond. Thereby the coordination number, that means the number of bonds between the 4 chloro ligands and nickel is 4. Thereby the coordination number is 4. And here the oxidation state is 2. That means nickel will form this complex by losing 2 electrons. That means nickel plus 2 ion will form the complex. Here the nickel atomic number is 28, electronic configuration is 3d8, 4s2, 4p0, 4d0. Right? Whereas the electronic configuration of nickel plus 2, we get it by removing 2 electrons. That means 26. That means here 3d8, 4s0, 4p0, 4d0. We have to remove 2 electrons from the nickel atom. We will get the electronic configuration of nickel plus 2 ion. So here, in presence of weak field ligand, we know the electrons to be filled according to the Hund's rule. Thereby, we get the configuration as shown in the figure. That is, we get 2 unpaired electrons and 3 paired electrons at 3d level, and remaining 4s, 4p, 4d are empty. So here, the coordination number is 4. Therefore, either the complex will undergo sp3 or dsp2. D means here inner d orbital. But here in this case, you see there are no empty orbitals at inner level, that is 3d level. So therefore, it has to undergo sp3 hybridization by utilizing empty orbitals of 4s and 4p. Thereby, the structure will be tetrahedral according to the postulates of valency bond theory. Tetrahedral structure will be obtained for this complex. And you see in the final electronic configuration, the electronic configuration, it has 2 unpaired electrons. By substituting n is equals to 2 in this equation, magnetic moment mu, finally we will get 2.83 Bohr magneton. This is a paramagnetic compound. Let us go through this example. This complex is tetracyanonickelate 2 ion. In this also the nickel is plus 2 oxidation state. Finally the electronic configuration is 3d8, 4s0, 4p0, 4d0. Here the coordination number is also 4 because cyano is a monodentate ligand. So finally it has to undergo either dsp2 hybridization or sp3d2 hybridization according to the valency bond theory. But if you look at this electronic configuration, that is nickel plus 2, that is 3d8, 4s0, 4p0, 4d0, it has 3 paired electrons, 2 unpaired electrons at 3d level. But at this situation we think that it has to undergo sp3 hybridization. The structure should be tetrahedral and it should be paramagnetic because it has 2 unpaired electrons. But the experimental results shown that it is a diamagnetic compound because here the electrons are filled against the Hund's rule. Here the cyano is a strong field ligand which is in accordance with the valency bond postulate. Therefore we can say that according to valency bond theory, in presence of strong field ligand, that is cyano ligand, the electrons are filled against the Hund's rule. That means the pairing takes place from the initial level only. So therefore what happens here? We will get one empty orbital at 3d level. So thereby it will undergo dsp2 hybridization by utilizing inner d orbital. Therefore here there will be a square planar structure for this complex. This is a square planar complex. It undergoes dsp2 hybridization and its magnetic moment is 0. It is a diamagnetic compound. Here also, if you compare the previous example, both are nickel plus 2. In both the complexes, nickel is in plus 2 oxidation state. Both are D8 system. In both the cases, the coordination number is 4. But the difference is, in this situation, the chloro is a weak field ligand, electrons are filled according to the Hund's rule, thereby there are no empty orbitals at 3d level. Finally, it underwent sp3 hybridization, the structure is tetrahedral. Whereas in this situation, the cyano is a strong field ligand, electrons are filled against the Hund's rule, and finally it underwent dsp2 hybridization, the structure is inner orbital complex. Right? So the important point to note here is filling the electrons is very important. In presence of strong field ligand, we have to fill the electrons according to against the Hund's rule. In presence of weak field ligand, the electrons should be filled according to the Hund's rule. Then you may have one doubt here, that is, which ligand is strong field ligand and which ligand is weak field ligand. How to identify whether the given ligand is strong field ligand or weak field ligand. How the scientist Pauling differentiated the various ligands as strong field and weak field. Actually what happened is, based on the experimental magnetic moment values of the various complexes, the scientist Pauling has classified the ligands as strong field ligands as well as weak field ligands. By measuring the magnetic field only, he has classified the ligands into two varieties, strong field ligands and weak field ligands. Right? Now you got the idea? So this total valency bond theory is based on the magnetic moment, magnetic property of the complex. Based on the magnetic moment, electrons are filled, thereby structure can be predicted and vice versa. Okay, now there is a problem for you. That is, what is the structure of the complex given below? Right? That is, the complex is hexaamine copper 2 sulfate. Based on the valency bond theory, just you try to solve the structure of the given complex. Right? If you go through the valency bond theory postulates and if you try to solve the problem, then finally you will get the conclusion as you can see in the slide. That is, the copper, you see here, the copper is atomic number 29, electronic configuration is 3d9 4s2 4p0 4d0. Here amine is a monodentate ligand, therefore the coordination number is 4 because each amine will form one bond. Such amines we have here 4, therefore the number of bonds between the metal and ligand here in this case is 4, the coordination number is 4. Coming to the oxidation state, here the copper oxidation state is +2 because here the ammonia is a amine is a neutral ligand, the oxidation state is 0. By substituting that value in this equation, we will get the oxidation state as +2. That means here in this, the copper in +2 oxidation state will form the complex. That means copper +2. The electronic configuration of copper +2 will get by removing 2 electrons from the copper. That means finally the system is 3d9 4s0 4p0 4d0. You know, amine is a strong field ligand, ammonia is a strong field ligand. in presence of strong field ligand, according to valency bond theory, the electrons to be filled against the Ohm's rule. So if we fill the electrons against the Ohm's rule, what happens finally? We get the electronic configuration like this. That is, 4 orbitals are paired up, one orbital will having one unpaired electron at 3D level, and remaining all are empty. That is, 4s is empty, 4p is empty, 4d is also empty. And you know, here the coordination number is 4. Therefore, according to the valency bond theory, it has to undergo either sp3 hybridization or dsp2 hybridization. And in the hybridization, the metal will utilize as obviously vacant orbitals. But here in this case, there is no empty orbital at 3D level. So there is no question of dsp2 hybridization, because here the inner orbitals are not empty. And the only option for this complex is sp3 hybridization, because only empty orbitals will undergo hybridization. So therefore here it will undergo hybridization as sp3. Obviously it should exhibit tetrahedral structure. According to our knowledge, if we solve the problem, what result do we get here? It should be tetrahedral complex, right? Now the problem starts here, right? That means we have applied correctly all the postulates of valency bond theory, and finally we got the structure should be tetrahedral. But here the experimental result shows that it is square planar geometry, right? We have followed all the important postulates of valency bond theory and solved the problem. According to the VBT theory, we got the structure as tetrahedral structure, but the experimental results shows that it is square planar geometry. So from this we can say that valency bond theory failed to explain the structure of all the complexes correctly, right? So actually VBT theory has given an explanation for this complex also, that is why the complex exhibits square planar geometry. According to the explanation, you can see in this image here, what happened is the electron from the 3D level has been excited to empty 4D orbital level by absorbing the energy from the room temperature. So thereby the complex will get empty orbital at the 3D level. So thereby it will undergo dsp2 hybridization and possesses square planar geometry. But this explanation has led to much confusion, because one may think that why not the same case applicable to the remaining examples, right? So what are the limitations of valency bond theory? Actually, according to the valency bond theory, you know, he has given more stress on metal side, but he neglected the nature of the ligand, right? The second thing is, this theory is completely based on the magnetic property, and there is no satisfactory explanation for the formation of inner and outer orbital complexes, right? For example, tetramine copper 2 sulfate complex. According to this theory, it should be sp3 hybridization, but the experimental result shows that it is a square planar geometry. It does not explain why at one time the electrons must be arranged against the Ohm's rule, while at the other time the electronic configuration is not disturbed. There is no proper explanation for this statement, right? And this theory also failed to explain the other characteristics of complexes, that is color, stabilities, reactivities of complexes. So these are the limitations of valency bond theory, right? No more. You know, valency bond theory is also helpful to explain the concept of Leb aligned inert nature of the complex. labile and inert nature of a complex. What is labile complex? The complexes which undergo substitution reaction within a minute time. That means the complexes which undergo fast substitution reactions are called as labile complexes. The complexes which undergo substitution at a very slow rate are called as inert complexes. We can decide the labile and inert nature of complex based on the VBT theory that you know in the higher classes, and you can also practice the various complexes as an example, and you can find the geometry of those complexes, right? I think now you are feeling quite comfort with the concept of valency bond theory, right? Finally, thank you for listening to the presentation. Nurture the nature for the future. Thank you.